Hey, financial family. Welcome back to the Financial Flourish Podcast. I'm your host, Michele Pemberton, and we're in season 3, episode 19. Can you believe that? This season is called Wealth in Action, Building Faith, Freedom, and Legacy. Last episode, we moved from mindset to movement, actually putting into practice the things that we learned in season 1 and 2. And today we're jumping into one of my favorite topics, income streams. Everyone knows that the cost of living isn't going down, right? And for many of you, one paycheck just doesn't stretch the way it used to. But here's the good news. You don't have to rely on just one stream. You can build multiple streams of income that fit your life, your gifts, and your values. Now, I'm not talking about hustle culture guilt here. No need to overwhelm yourself with multiple streams of income if the one that you have in this season of your life is allowing you to live in a life of financial freedom. However, for some of you, it might be necessary to make that change. So just make sure that you're being smart about it and you're taking sustainable steps. I'm not talking about overnight riches or get rich quick schemes. I'm talking about practical, real life sustainable ways to multiply your money and create more financial freedom for yourself and for your family. I know some of you are probably wondering, what does she mean by multiple streams of income? Let me give you an example. Think of your money like a lake fed by rivers. So you have rivers flowing into a lake. If one river slows down, others keep the lake alive. That's called diversification, and it's also resilience. Now, I did some research, and according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, multiple job holders in 2025, this was a report that was done in 2025, that was released in 2025, about 5.2% of US workers held more than one job in 2024. And that was actually an increase from 2023, where it was 5%. So I did a quick search and found out that the US civilian workforce in August 2024 was about 168.5 million people. What that means is about 8.7 million people had diversified income. I'm sure that you know people who have more than one income stream, and maybe some of them have more than one and you just don't even know. The question is, are you one of them? Now, if you have multiple income streams, what does that do for you? If I stick with my river analogy, multiple streams of income increase the volume of your money flow. It makes it larger and it makes it more powerful. And if this is the case, it allows you to save more, invest more, and reach your financial goals faster. And who doesn't want that? I know I do. The other reason why you would want multiple income streams is that this will protect your river from drought. If you lose your main stream of income, your entire financial flow will not dry up. The smaller streams will still continue to provide water and sustain you until your main source of income is re-established. In other words, you will not experience drought. In recent months, we have seen a lot of people losing their main source of income, their day job as we call it. And these are not just government workers, but also persons in the private industry. Can you imagine the panic of those who have only one income stream? They are at the risk of having a drought. And this is what I want to prevent in your life. Remember, you are not indispensable in your job. Prior to a few months, people, including myself, thought that the safest job was with government. But we know that this is no longer true. Multiple streams also help you to grow because over time, the smaller streams can increase in size, and who knows, it can even become a major source of income. This could lead to future growth and it can lead to faster route to your financial freedom. Now, as we speak about financial freedom, one of the benefits of multiple streams is that you can save for your Princess Cushion fund at a faster rate. According to the Federal Reserve, a report on the economic well being of US households in 2024, roughly half of adults report having at least 3 months of emergency savings. That's pretty good. But there's a big difference based on your age and your location. So, what this means is that you have a lot of households who are benefiting from that extra inflow to build their cushions. You remember in the last season, we spoke about mindset and how important it is to have the right mindset. So, as we speak about increasing your income streams, you have to make sure that your mindset is being checked. You don't want to move too fast and take too many things on at the same time, but you do have to move. You have to do something about it. You move forward and remember that even the tiny streams count because they add up to something bigger over time. So, what are some examples of the different categories of income that we can look at? I'll look at five of them. The first one is earned income. This is the most popular, right? This is your job or your business, and this is where you're actively involved. You trade your time or your skill for money. And we have so many examples. I know that you guys can give me examples. So let's say a teacher, if you're a teacher, you get a teacher salary. If you're a hairstylist, you have your hairstylist income that you get. If you're an engineer or if you're a CPA like me, you get money from your day job, as we call it. The second is your side hustle income. So on top of your main job, your day job, you have a side hustle. Now, this is still active, but it's pretty flexible. For your day job, you need to be in the office from 9 to 5 or whatever time your employer gives you. But with your side hustle, you have a lot more flexibility, you have a lot more control over your time. And so, one of the things that you want to do is try and figure out what is a good side hustle for me. And let's say you're good in baking. You can decide, what, on weekends I'm going to bake, I'm going to take orders in advance and I'm going to bake on the weekends. Or you might be good in math. A lot of people are not good in math. So you might decide, I'm going to do some tutoring. And then, of course, you'll choose the time when you want to tutor. Or if you're good in organizing or helping people, you can decide, in your side hustle, you're going to do some virtual assistant work. So you might say, I'm going to do only 5 hours a week, but you have that flexibility over your time. The third one is passive income, right? This one is where you have to do a lot of work up front. So you have a front load work and then it pays you repeatedly after time. And you have a lot of examples. If you're renting a house or renting a room, you have to put some work into the room. And then once that is done, then, the person comes in and live and you get paid that way. Or you might say, oh, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to do an ebook, or I'm going to sell some stuff online. You have a lot of work to do up front, but then after a while, you don't have to worry about it. Now, even though it says passive, that doesn't mean that you just do it and leave, right? So you still need to do some maintenance. So it's not as active, but that doesn't mean that it's zero work because we know nothing is zero work. Now, the next one that I'm looking at, number 4, is your portfolio income. So those are your investments. So you have, your dividends from your fund, you have bond interest, you have stock market that you invest in, so you can get income from this as well. And we've spoken about compound interest. So, compound interest helps you over time, so your investment is growing. And then the last one is ownership or profit income. So you can invest in a company, invest in a business, you get profit sharing, or there's so many different things that you can do with that one. Now, I've given you 5 examples, and I'm not saying that you should do all 5. So I'm saying choose one. Choose one to start, master it, let it multiply, and then if you have the bandwidth, then you can choose another. But the main thing is not to, overwhelm yourself. Now, even the Bible talks about multiple income streams. If you look at Ecclesiastes 11, verse 2, it says, invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. So this verse is reminding us how important it is to invest in more than one thing, not just rely on one source of income, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so it's very important. You might lose your job, as I said earlier, you might face an illness, or if you invest in the market will shift, which it always does. So you have to make sure that you have more than one. And, I was talking to a friend the other day. She was telling me, yes, I have faith, I have faith. And it's okay. You can have faith, but you still have to do something about it because the Bible also says faith without works is dead. So as you pray for provision, you have to make sure that you're doing something. So if you pray, you ask God for clarity, then you block some time where you're actually doing some work. If you're believing because you want an increase at your job, if the job comes up, there's an internal position, but hey, maybe you should apply, right? And then you're asking for wisdom. Yes, God gives you the wisdom, so you need to start saving. You could do automatic transfer. You could make sure that you're saving in a high yield savings account. So these are some things that you definitely need to pay attention to and not just say, oh, I have faith and, God is going to help me. Now, in addition to that, there's some other things that I want you to be aware of and to actually do. So we know that there's one thing that we all have to do, right? Especially in the United States, you have to pay taxes, right? Once you start your other streams of income, don't forget the taxes because it's so often that, people who do side jobs or gig work, as they call it, they don't think about the taxes until it's tax time. If you're getting paid on a 1099, then nobody's paying the taxes for you. So you need to make sure that you're making quarterly estimated tax payments so that at the end of the year, you're not having this big tax bill plus a penalty and interest because the IRS will charge penalty and interest. You also need to make sure that you're keeping track of your records because how else are you going to pay your taxes if you don't know, what you're doing? So just make sure that that's something that you're doing. And we have a budget template that we've made available on our site, our website. And you can go to www.absoluteaccountingcpa.com/financial flourish. And you can use our template to help you keep track of your income, your expenses, the projects that you're doing, and just make it easier for you so that when you're ready for your tax planning and your tax preparation, the information is there because I know that's a big headache for everyone. As a tax preparer, CPA, I know this firsthand. So that's just to help you there. Now, the other thing, as I mentioned earlier, is that passive income, it's a myth that, oh, passive income, you just set it up and you forget it. That's not true. You still have to maintain it, you still have to refine it. And then as you do your billing, just make sure that you're not underpricing. At first, maybe, you start off a little lower, but as things get better and you see more results, then you have to start raising your rates. And then look out for burnout. We talk about hustle culture in our last season. We're not here to have anybody get burnt out. You might say, I'm going to do a season when I'm going to just do maybe for 2 months. I'm going to do a lot of this now. And then, I'll take a break and not do that many. So just pay attention to that so that you're not burning yourself out. We still want you around. And then also boundaries. It's important to set boundaries. Just make sure that's something that's being done, that you're setting boundaries with everything that you're doing. And you might have to refuse work sometimes. You might just say, oh, thanks for thinking of me, but, this is outside of what I'm doing right now, or we're not taking on anyone else right now, just to make sure that you're not burning yourself out and then you're setting the boundaries so that you can still do your job in a real professional, excellent fashion. So these are some things that you definitely need to think about. It's really exciting, increasing our income streams and making sure that we are plentiful and not in drought. So for this week, I want you to think about what you're going to do. You're going to come up with an idea of what you can do to increase your number of income streams. Just one thing. It doesn't have to be, seven, just do one. And once you come up with that idea, sit down, give yourself, I would say, an hour and say, you know what, let me start drafting something. Let me see how this would look like, just to see if it makes sense for you. And once you finish doing that, then you need to see, okay, what is it going to cost me? So you're now going to start doing a budget for that project to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to make sure it's successful, right? So, we're talking about wealth building, and the first step is, of course, the income. And remember, as you build your income, that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And your wealth is going to be built by, your repeatable steps is what you do over and over. You're not trying to get rich quick overnight. You just need to get that momentum and actually start. Now, our next episode is coming up and it's going to talk about saving and sowing, building habits that multiply. And I do invite you to just tune back in 2 weeks and hear what that one is about. So now you have the income, and now we're going to talk about saving. In the meantime, please go to our Instagram page, follow us at _Financial Flourish. And you can also find us on Spotify, Financial Flourish. Please subscribe, leave us a comment, a review, and also look out for a few polls that we're going to be putting on Instagram within the next 2 weeks. So we hope that you will participate and engage in our interactions. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope the information was helpful, that it's going to encourage you to start, to get up and increase your income streams. And let us watch as your wealth grows and you start to flourish financially. So thank you again for joining us. I look forward to hearing from you. As I normally close, take one small step toward your financial goal and don't forget to flourish.